Hi, my name is Tee Persad, and welcome to the Private Corporate Counsel Podcast, the podcast where we discuss business issues, including issues from growth and development, conflict resolution, and all issues that entrepreneurs face in the operation of their business. Today we have as our guest Clay Patterson. Clay Patterson is a lawyer. He's also a marketing guru and wrote a best-selling book, Blast Off. So if you are an entrepreneur and you have an interest in learning about digital marketing, this is the book for you. Clay, welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I've known you for quite some time now.
A few years now.
And we share a couple of common elements. You and I have attended some of the same types of seminars, and we're both lawyers. We both traveled down the professional track.
You're the smarter lawyer.
Well, I don't know about that.
I'll give you that right off the bat.
I don't know about that. I just have probably a few more years than you under my belt.
Sure.
I think you graduated in 2015?
16. Yeah.
And then you became a member of the Law Bar in 2016. I graduated in December of 1993, I believe. And so I've been a member of the bar, a couple of bars now for a long time. It's going on 30 years.
A little bit more experience,
so
right?
I don't think it's intelligence. It's just experience.
Yeah.
And so you accumulate a lot of knowledge, a lot of skill, a lot of abilities over the years. And I got to tell you, if I were to look at myself as a 7 or 8 year lawyer like you are, I would say that you're probably way ahead of me at that stage in my career. So in terms of intelligence, I'm probably going to defer to you on that.
Well, thank you. I'll take that.
No, absolutely. Well, Clay, I wanted to talk to you today because I think so many businesses really have a need for the space that you fill with digital space marketing. You have such a unique ability to not only talk about the nuts and bolts of marketing in the digital space, but you have a unique ability to tell entrepreneurs and business owners and business leaders what they need to look for when they're actually looking for the right marketing company or the right SEO company or the right social media company.
Yeah.
All these marketing gurus that have popped up over the years. It's sort of the marketing and the internet marketing is sort of the new IT.
Yeah.
Remember when IT came about? Everyone was jumping into it. And people like me who didn't have any base knowledge in it, who didn't know anything about it, we were just confused. Yeah. We just didn't know who was ripping us off.
Foreign to everybody.
And who was actually legitimate. Yeah. Right. And I think that's the same thing with digital space, digital marketing today, and social media marketing and SEO and all those things, because as an entrepreneur, we don't necessarily have the time, the knowledge, the skill, the experience, and we usually don't know anyone who really is trustworthy in that space. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually got into the space.
Yeah, absolutely. So 15 years old in high school, took all the coding classes I possibly could, went to Florida State, bought an ice company, was selling ice at parties. And so that's really when the entrepreneur path begun, built a little website for myself, started really the boots on the ground type marketing, printing posters, sticking them in different areas across Florida State's campus and all of that. And then left Florida State, went and got my law degree and popped out there and really wanted to use my law degree for business. When I was in law school, people were asking, what do you want to practice? What do you want to practice? During those stages of life, you get the, what are you going to do when you grow up? And then you get the, when are you going to have children? When are you going to get married? And that was that stage of, what do you want to practice? What do you want to do? And my response was always the same of just saying, I want to use it for business. And so right after I got involved with a startup that I was looking to launch, and it was a virtual water sports platform for teaching people over the internet how to do specific tricks and sport, like with wakeboarding or wake surfing and stuff like that.
I didn't know that you wakeboard.
And then applying that to other action sports like snowboarding and stuff. Yeah. So you could connect with a coach at different levels, maybe a $500 coach, a $300 coach, or a $100 coach, and even pros. And they could give you a lesson of, hey, T, the way you approach this wave when you're doing your backflip your shoulders wrong and like coach you virtually.
Wait a minute. You were how old when you did this?
This was right after law school. So this was 24, 25?
So let me get this straight. You go to undergraduate school, you get your bachelor's degree. You go to law school, you get your law degree. And this is what you're thinking about?
This is what I was thinking about.
This is what you're focused on?
And I needed a website. And so I said, well, I took a bunch of website classes when I was 15 years old. I'm just going to dive back into it. So I hopped on YouTube University, not formally YouTube University, but just YouTube in general, and retaught that skill set. And of course, a lot had changed in 10 years with website development. And so what I really started studying was, I'm about to enter this race and I need a vehicle, which is my website, and how it's structured and how it's built is going to determine how well I do in the race. And so I started really learning about technical website development, which is different than just a regular website,
So, other than just the graphics and just the words.
Yeah. The body kit.
You were going back into the background and looking at what's required to make not only the website look appealing, but to be effective.
Absolutely. And my design skills of making it look pretty was not my strength. We have a team now at Digital Space Marketing, and they're amazing designers. And so I could get a website to rank really well on search engines like Google by studying the engine and by really putting all the pieces under the hood of that engine and under the hood of the car in the right places. Because a lot of people will just go to an auto dealer or when they're launching a business and say, I need a website. It's the box everybody checks when they're launching a business, right? Well, not all websites are created equally. And the industry is not regulated either. So you can go to any of these auto dealers and buy a car, but you don't know what you're getting.
Right. You don't even know if you have an engine in the car most of the time.
Correct. Yeah. You don't know if you're going to pull this thing up on the highway, start business, and then all of a sudden you integrate it or try to integrate it with CRM platform or a sales portal or something and have to rebuild the whole machine.
Yeah. Right? So take me through this step, because I think there's this distinction I think is important. There's so many entrepreneurs, so many business owners out there, and even leaders in businesses who may not have an interest in owning the business. They just don't know what to look for. They don't know how to vet a marketing company or any of these people out there who are doing the sales call and want to get them on a monthly subscription to be their SEO guy or their digital marketing guy. You actually literally wrote the book, Blast Off, about this issue, how to help CEOs, entrepreneurs, and leaders in businesses know what to look for and how to vet those people. So tell us a little bit about that.
No, and I appreciate the plug for the book. It is Blast Off what executives need to know about digital marketing. And executives don't need to know how to create a Facebook post or how to build a website, but they do need to know that there is a difference between different types of websites. Facebook post might be an option for their target audience, depending on where they are in the customer journey. And so they need to know what tools they can pull out of the quiver and when to use them and how to hold others accountable. So if someone's starting and looking to evaluate specifically a website development company, I would look at, one, of course, bring them sample sites of what you like design wise, but also take their advice. Often clients will come to us and say, I love this website. And I'm like, well, it's not good for this reason. There's no call to actions above the fold. They're not clear. We're not telling the user what to do. And then also get case studies. So show me, if I hire you to give me this vehicle to enter into this race, show me some results. Show me in 12 months from now, what can I expect traffic wise? Show me your approach to, before you build it, just like a house, you design it and lay out the foundation and lay out the plumbing and do all of that. The very last thing when building a house is actually building the house, right?
Yeah.
And so
what Stephen Covey says, what does he say? Measure twice and cut once.
Yeah. So check how they approach this subject. Are you on with just a salesperson who's saying, we build websites, this is what we do, here's some of the websites? Like, go into the results of, okay, how is this different from this website? And there's different software out there. I like a software called SEMrush. I think it has a free type of plan. There's paid ones too, but you can plug a domain in to any of those sample sites that this marketing company is showing you, and you can see how it's doing in the race. You can see how many keywords unrelated to the brand, which is very important for someone. If you're selling hot dogs, let's say, how many people in Orlando are searching for a hot dog company near me or whatever it may be. And so using that data to structure the website and using that data to evaluate the marketing company is essential, and understanding that. But
when I read your book, you gave the book to me soon after you published it. Well, thank you for that, by the way.
Welcome.
I always enjoy reading something that I can find use for and application for, and that I can share with other people. And I think I found your book to be exactly that for the entrepreneur. I don't think there's another book in that space, and that narrow space that we're talking about, other than your book, if I'm correct. One of the things I really liked about that is you actually started talking about building a profile for the customer, and you actually gave a good framework for building an avatar for the ideal customer. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, before you're building a website, before you're building ads, before you're entering the market, you need to process who you're talking to. And I think bringing that person to life is a lot better. When writing the book, for instance, I could, put a picture of you on the board and say, this is who I'm writing to, an executive who has the ability to hire a marketing company and only needs to know certain things. But after reading this book, they're going to know probably more than their marketing team,
sure,
right? And so when building out these avatars, I think it's important to really dive deep. Get who they are, quotes, books, where they are, what their pain points are daily. I know you don't want to take the time to build an ad, right? So I don't want to teach you how to build an ad, and it's not in the book, right? So really diving into who those people are, where they spend time, what they're doing, and really understanding them so that you can actually speak to them. Because if you're speaking to everyone, you've heard the quote, you're speaking to no one.
I see that quite often with the businesses that I work with. They have such a scattered focus. And when they start thinking about that ideal customer and building that avatar, and you do a beautiful job really walking them through the steps of building that avatar in your book, then all of a sudden you're actually designing something that actually makes a difference to them. And it's easier to connect with them. Sales is a function of two things. Authority, you've got to know what you're selling, why it works, why it's applicable to this group. And you have to know that inside and out, whether it's a product or a service. But then you also have to have that empathy factor. And you don't build that empathy with that ideal customer or that avatar unless you really do a deep dive and understand them.
And I think if you're laying out, to get in the weeds of like a site structure or something, right? Like when planning out to build a website, you might have a lot of different target audiences. With the Private Corporate Counsel that you run, there are many different target audiences.
Absolutely.
And each one is going to come in and find out about you across multiple entry points in their customer journey. It could be a referral. It could be a cold call. It could be someone walking by.
Right.
And so processing how we're going to structure the site from homepage into a resource section for these specific avatars, or maybe even we're driving paid ads to these landing pages. How are they going to resonate with that? So maybe even starting more general on the homepage, establishing authority. We could, go into what we'd want to lay out on the homepage, but establish that authority. And then once they click through to what they're interested in, now it's hyper-focused on them.
Yeah, and so you're helping them make that psychological shift from just thinking about you as one of the top 3 on their list to go, I ought to give these guys a shot.
Well, then I think the power of, data and retargeting come into play. And it's those creepy ads that when you shop for the new Pilates socks or whatever it may be, you start seeing them everywhere on the internet.
I think about something and then I open my phone and there it is. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And so, what I do,
But that's
I
beautiful.
just shut that thing down every night.
Yeah, but that's beautiful about marketing, putting stuff into, if I'm not into Ferraris and I start seeing ads from Ferraris everywhere, well, that doesn't really help me. If I'm into, wake surfing and snowboarding and I start seeing snowboarding, snowboard equipment, that's helpful for me.
Yes.
And I can start seeing stuff. So it's very cool that, especially with social media and stuff like that, you're bombarded with ads constantly, which,
I mean, the fact of the matter is Facebook, Google, Apple, almost every major company that's in the space, they build a mega profile in every single one of us.
They're buying data, selling
they're
data.
buying data, they're selling data. What is it? Google paid Apple, I think, $20-something billion to be the preferred browser on the devices over a period of time. And so they're building the profile. These companies that are making billions and billions of dollars are doing the exact same thing that you're advocating.
Yeah.
But a lot of these small and medium-sized businesses don't necessarily have the opportunity to be introduced to that material. And so they don't really know that they need to do it. And so they don't do it. And, of course, many of the people who are fly-by-night marketing companies or social media companies and things like that, they usually don't have the type of training necessary to do a deep dive as well. So tell me about digital space marketing and what is the journey that you walk your business clients through when this issue comes up?
With specifically which issue?
Dealing with
data?
Identifying what they need to do to identify that target market, to develop that avatar, and to develop not only the website, but the entire digital space marketing strategy to make their business effective.
Yeah, so to peel it apart, one, just developing the avatars. I think it goes into a lot of customers, depending on where they come into our business, they might know it, but they've never consciously created messaging or ads or graphics specifically for them. So if they already know their customer avatar, or some even come in with a brand guide. We just built out Trustco Bank, for instance, and their brand guide and messaging guidelines is very dialed in. They know who their customer is. They know specifically that they're wanting to, gear more towards mortgages right now, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a little bit different, and it might take some tweaking from our team, right? And then there's the entrepreneur or a startup or maybe someone only in business for a few years who really needs that built out and they've never thought about it. They have their tagline, but it's not dialed in specifically for those services. So it's really going through, one, establishing the avatar, getting clear on who we want to speak to and where, and then figuring out when we're speaking to them in certain places, what they're going to hear. So on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, it should feel and look different. It still be from the brand because everything's driven from those avatars, but they should be able to, put that together. And when those people hop on to those channels after interacting with the business, or maybe even for the first time, they're seeing material and ads specifically for them.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is that you are taking your customers through this journey where you're trying to make them fully aware of their customer's mindset, wherever the customer is in that journey.
With assumptions. I think that's like a key factor in this is we have some assumptions. If we do a lot in the medical space, so if a plastic surgeon, LASIK surgeon, whatever comes in, we are really good at generating leads for them and getting them new patients. But we have assumptions of what's going to work because we have tons of clients like that spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with us a month. But if you don't come in with assumptions, test it, and then retest it.
Yeah, of course. It's all a hypothesis, right?
Yeah.
It's almost the scientific method all over again.
But I think there's tools out there for you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So today, if we were launching a law firm, for instance, we can use things like tools that Facebook and them offer, Facebook Ads Library, that's free, and we can see every single ad that our competitors are using.
Yeah.
And we can do it better. And it's similar to, I always use this analogy with building websites. If you and I are out camping, right, and a bear comes, I just have to run faster than you.
Oh,
well. and so, and with our haircuts, hopefully we're at the same speed. But with that, we can see what our competitors are doing, and we can start tweaking things around it. Right. They've already done some research on it. So we're already hitting the ground running by not taking, of course, their messaging or graphics or anything, but seeing what they're doing, I think. And figuring out what we can do better.
That competition analysis is pretty important. So you're doing whatever you can to really understand this customer mindset, where they are, and then you're trying to help these businesses develop the right message. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's so many mediums that you can put this message in.
Correct.
How do you choose which medium to use? I mean, just in the digital space, what do you have? Social media, and that can be broken down into 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different areas.
Of different ones,
You've got the general web. You've got targeted paid ads. You've got so many options. How do you help a business choose?
So what we've been doing lately is stacking it almost in columns, if we were to think about it that way. So you have the different areas of the customer journey, whether it's, and the typical, like a very simple funnels, awareness, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel.
Right.
And so top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom
was
of
that
the
tofu,
funnel.
mofu, and bofu.
Yeah. And so putting what you're going to do at each stage within those columns and saying, okay, at the top of the funnel, we're going to use Google search. I love Google search because people are literally searching for your business, right? And so using that at the top of the funnel, and then you have your landing pages of where you're going to drive that traffic to based on your customer avatars. What is that page going to look like?
Sure.
And then you start moving into, okay, we know they're interested in our business or a business like us. Let's go with that assumption. So at middle of the funnel, we're going to use, maybe in the B2B space, specifically LinkedIn, right? Or Facebook and Instagram. Everybody pretty much is on Facebook and Instagram. So not just blasting out to that channel, but just using Facebook, Instagram at the middle of the funnel for retargeting. Mm-hmm. And then let's say specifically those ads are, if someone was shopping for a website for our business, they click our Google ad, top of the funnel, website design company. Mm-hmm. Then we start retargeting them with maybe pricing. Let's weed them out quick, pricing and case studies.
Retargeting on the web or direct email or text?
All of the above. If we have their email, which there's systems in place where we can scrape email addresses, assuming your terms and conditions and your privacy policy cover this stuff, right? Which is diving into the legal aspect. But then to move to the bottom of the funnel, we're going to start using case studies. We're going to start, as I mentioned, showing site traffic and growth that we've had from clients over 12
So you're starting top of the funnel, interest, narrowing it down, choice, and all the way down to get ready to take some action.
And I see at the top of the funnel, I see this mistake a lot, shoving the main call to action, the goal, down their throats of, hey, buy a website from us today. That's not the main call to action that we should be using, or, pay us to build your website, redesign it, because they're not ready for it. They want to learn more. They want case studies. They want to see what we've done for people. Or maybe even a limited call to action could be, hey, pay us for a design audit. Pay us $200. Let's try to get our foot in the door and get a little money from them. If you give us $200, we'll apply that $200 to any project you use us for. So trying to get those lead magnets really working for you.
So that call to action is almost like a positive trigger that you can give them.
Correct.
To get them moving from where they are to where you want them to go. Obviously, it's great to get them exactly where you want them, but it's incremental.
Yeah, and specifically for us, it would be come in through a paid ad, let's say Google, Bing, or anywhere else, or we could even blast on LinkedIn, hey, we just built Trust Coast Bank, and try to get that in front of C-suite executives at banks, right? And then download our website checklist. The website industry isn't regulated. We've self-regulated ourselves. Mm-hmm. Give us your email, download our checklist. Then from there, what does that email funnel look like specifically? And when they have now pulled us into their world, we have proper data tracking systems in place and pixel placements that wherever they look digitally, they're going to see us. So if they look on YouTube, they're going to be like, gosh, digital space marketing's here. They hopped on LinkedIn, boom, we're there. Facebook, we're there. Instagram, we're there. And so having those ads and having that ability to follow them around, they're going to start looking everywhere in the digital world seeing us.
How many impressions do they need to have before they say, well, you know what, I'll give them a call. Well, I'll give it a shot.
So there's a lot of studies out on that, which is a good question. It used to be 4. Now people are saying 11 to 15.
Because there's so many distractions.
It's crazy. And that's where, to kind of shift the subject too, I think a lot of companies are doing really good producing content, right? They're putting money into content, but then they post it. But then let's just use Facebook just to zoom in. They post it on Facebook, and then Halloween was yesterday, so they post their costumes, and it buries their post. And what they're doing is they're not building ads and putting money behind these things. So they're spending money to get content created, but then it stops there. Like when just a few dollars behind that, even just retargeting website visitors, showing them what they're doing or whatever it may be, goes so far.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to shift gears with you for a minute here. Your background is fascinating. Aside from you're taking a lot of coding classes at a young age and being very entrepreneurial at a young age, you try to live a balanced life.
I do.
You take time off, a week, sometimes more, to go snowboarding. You take frequent time off for retreats, and to sharpen the saw by going to seminars and other educational events. How do you make time for those things?
I think it's essential. I think stepping away, and I believe you're into meditation and everything like that. Like getting rid of that noise is just a must.
Yeah.
You can think clearer. You need that space. And I don't want to dive too deep into the religious aspect, but a lot of people focus on praying or hoping or the law of attraction, that type of stuff. Those buzzwords are out there.
Sure.
But listening is not really emphasized as much in our culture, especially in America where we're bombarded constantly by technology. Mm-hmm. Anywhere you go, people are staring at their phones. And I think the brain, arguably being a receiver, does better when it pauses. And I think that's essential to step away and take a step back to take 3 forward. And
but the things that you do are extreme. Snowboarding is not an easy thing.
Well, and I like to get on helicopters and I wish it just ended at snowboarding around resorts, but I've gone into the helicopters and the back countries now. That's where kind of my snowboarding is, which is, it's a fun area to be in, but I think it makes it fun and worthwhile and teaches me a lot about the struggles. When you're climbing up to a mountain after a helicopter just dropped you off, you're processing things a little bit differently.
Your focus has got to be, you've got to be on your game when you're focusing.
I think as it's comparable to the entrepreneur journey of doing tough stuff and being in the what's the path that you call of?
Oh yeah, the zone of disappointment.
The zone of disappointment.
Yes, indeed.
Your heart starts beating at the top of a mountain, and you're like, "Why am I here? What am I doing?"
Yeah.
And you strap into a snowboard, and you start going down. You're in.
Yeah. You've snowboarded on Whistler, Canada, and
I've been up there. Yeah,
I've skied in Whistler, and I got to tell you, that's some of them are easy, but the Black Diamond's not.
Oh, they're crazy up there.
It's crazy, yeah.
And I think with the physical health and taking breaks, it's as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as executives, we have to, and I'm human, so I've struggled with this a lot of not showing up my best sometimes to work or snapping in the middle of a meeting. And, we don't get much grace in the seats that we sit in.
That's right.
But that's not what we take that role up for. And so I think trying to be my best self, whether it's getting in the cold plunge, and I was in this morning, getting in the cold plunge, doing things that you don't want to do, the rewards are there. And I think that's what life is about.
I got to tell you, I didn't want to go to Pilates class this morning at all. I fell asleep around 1 o'clock this morning and had to be up around a little after 5 o'clock. in order to take care of the dog and do everything else that I need to do before I get to the class. And I was like, I don't feel it this morning, but I did it.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, after the class, I just felt invigorated, and I can continue with my day. Sometimes you just have to do those things.
Do you think it's the 90% rule of just showing up as?
I firmly believe that if you show up, that's a big part of it. That's probably the biggest part of it for me, because if you show up, you'll get something.
Have you seen that play out in business by just showing up and then doors open? Or
100%, 100%. I got to tell you, well, that's one of the reasons I actually come to the office every day. I could work from home.
Yeah.
We had the ability to remote since 2006, believe that or not.
Wow.
And I've tried it, and when you're focusing on one project and you just want to just do that without interruption, it's great. But if your day-to-day work and your interaction with other people, if you physically show up, you never know what's going to come at you. And what may come at you would be maybe the best opportunity you've ever had.
Do you think is that playing out? Do you think we're bouncing back now to the non-virtual?
Well, I got to tell you, I got to tell you, I see both ends of it. And, when I'm looking at the employer is now losing the creativity, the connectivity. People have these buzzwords about culture, but basically what they're losing is the synergy and the cohesiveness. From the employee's point of view, I get that from them. They have flexibility. Sometimes if they want to make more money, they can walk dogs. They can do other things during their break time. They save on gas. They save on time. They can still get some work done at home. They hopefully are eating healthier. So there are a lot of benefits on both sides. And striking that balance is kind of tough. And I think obviously on both sides there's opportunity to abuse it.
Yeah.
But for me, someone said it best this way. They said, the guy who stays at home and works on the file only works on the files that he gets. The guy who goes out and works in the office and commutes back and forth may pick up a client on the way back and forth.
Yeah.
And so
I like that.
So it's really important to really think about, as an entrepreneur, what the goal is.
Yeah.
From an employee point of view, the goal is, hey, they gave me work to do. I'm going to get the work done. When I'm done, I'm going to do something else. But from the employer's point of view is, hey, I'm going to give you some work to do, get the work done. And if you get it done fast enough, I'm going to give you something else because I'm not paying you for the job.
Yeah.
I'm paying you for your time.
Yeah.
And if you can get it done faster, then we can do more. And so
moving into that transactional employee type, as opposed to I just started a Netflix. I think it's Netflix, and it's the 100 plus Blue Zone something.
I haven't seen that. I have to check that out. It's
really good on just diving deep into these Blue Zone areas where people are living longer, and I think we're made to be together. And so I've noticed from our staff and stuff, even in the digital world, we could definitely be remotely. Yeah. But people, that connection is essential to have. And so
it's a human element.
Yeah. I don't think it's lasting. I guess I would put out the argument. I don't think people are as happy when they isolate themselves. There's, the worst thing you can do to a prisoner is put him alone. Right. And so,
there's some truth in that. I want to switch up a little with you, because it's interesting to me that you've had this journey, and you didn't have to go to law school to do what you do.
Mm-hmm. No.
You didn't have to go to get a bachelor's degree to do what you do.
Yeah.
Because you learned a lot of the fundamental skills before those stages, and with the information available and your drive and your desire to learn and your focus, you could easily pick those things up on your own.
Absolutely.
And so you went through this journey, and you came right back to what your life force is, or your life task, right? You were drawn to this, in a way that you weren't drawn to practicing law, even though you own a law firm, and you have a lawyer working for you, and going through that process. You still said, "This is great. Love being a lawyer. Love having the credential. What I learned was very useful." But this is who I am, and this is what I was born to do. And you actually was brave enough to actually make that leap.
It was not the path of least resistance.
Talk to us a little bit about that, because I know there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there, or even people in businesses. They're saying, "Oh my God, this is not what I'm born to do, but I'm doing it because I need to make money, because I need to survive."
That's the trap.
That's exactly right. So talk us through that.
I did not take the path of least resistance in the sense of parents are amazing and everything, but the guidance was go get a legal job, practice law, etc. But I realized that that's just didn't make me happy. I wasn't that engaged in it. I got the law firm or the law degree to use in business, right? I'm going to read business books the rest of my life, and every entrepreneur or CEOs, executives who are at that high level are probably a leader who reads, right? Yes. And so,
say leaders are readers are leaders.
And so I figured I'm not going to go back and read case law. I don't know anyone who does that.
Actually, I just did yesterday.
Well, lawyers. I'm
sorry to say,
lawyers do. But at that time, debating going to law school or not, I'm like, I'm not going to sit down for the rest of my life and study case law and understand the nuances of law unless I pay to go do this.
But I tell you what, though, what law school did for me, and it probably did for you as well, it gave me the ability to analyze anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Mm-hmm. Whereas you can analyze a math problem because those are known quantities.
Yeah.
You can analyze a chair and pull it apart and find all the parts to it and put it back together. Mm-hmm. But to be able to do that in the abstract, in society, in a relationship, in a confrontation, in a conflict, in an opportunity to grow and develop and say, these are the elements that you need to look at. And this is what we need to work on.
I like that.
I think law school, and particularly reviewing case law, gave me that opportunity to look at that a lot more. Because when you take a concept as ambiguous or as vague as negligence, what the hell is it?
Yeah.
But they were able to say, in order to prove that someone else was negligent, you've got to find that, number one, that there was a duty, and that duty is governed by the reasonable man standard, whatever the hell that is. You have to have a breach of that duty, and the breach has to be the direct cause and the proximate cause of damages, and there has to be no reason why you can't negate that. Mm-hmm. Now, people who haven't gone through that experience, they're not looking at it the same way. But when you go through law school, it really gives you and hones in on that analytical ability.
I think that lens is, and
that helps you a lot in everything else that you do.
That lens is a very powerful tool. There's the perception that others have of you looking at the world through the lens, of course.
Exactly.
And there's the lens, the number two, of you actually being able to see the world and analyze it.
That's correct.
That way.
You're seeing the pieces, not just the whole.
That's really the main drive that pushed me. I wanted that knowledge. I wanted to look at the world that way. I probably could have done informal training, but I didn't. And with my philosophy of where the internet is and where everything is today, I have a lot of nieces and nephews who are ages 12 to 16, 17. Uh-huh. And my sisters and brother-in-laws don't like the advice that I give them, because even with the degrees or whatever, you don't need it. In a sense, like to do certain things. I know plenty of people who have started an asphalt company or whatever it may be at 18 years old. And I didn't start my first business, well, besides lacrosse camps and ice, selling ice and stuff, my first scalable type business until I was 25, 26. And
you weren't in Alaska, by the way, selling ice.
No. I was selling it to parties. They take shots down these big ice blocks. I was the Iceman. And so I think depending on what you want to do, you can teach yourself. Yeah. And starting early,
especially today, with all the resources available.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine having access to so much instructional material, data, and experts in the area where I can just kind of sit down in a day and says, I want to learn about X, and just spend the day taking notes on it and digesting it. If I had that when I was 14, 15, 16, I can't imagine what I would do. Of course, you're competing with games and, dopamine triggers.
But for the curious, generating curiosity. And I mean, that's how, after building the website for Wation, I immediately moved into affinitylaw.com built it out for myself. And then friends and family said, can you build me a website?
Yes.
And I said, absolutely. And the first check came in and I didn't even have an LLC.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I don't want to be a development company because that's project based. I want to focus on reoccurring revenue and really adding value. So I'm launching digital space marketing. I cash the check, launch the LLC and cash the check.
Right.
And so even just self-teaching something that I needed for myself, I think, it led me to digital space marketing. And as an entrepreneur, I think to zoom out, the law is very important to understand as an entrepreneur, and marketing's is good to, understand as an entrepreneur. So spending other people's money and learning how to advertise doing that was very valuable for me to learn.
You showed up and you kept moving along the line, and all these opportunities opened up, and you started seeing the world in a different place. And that took you on a journey in your professional life cycle from one place to where you are now. How much further do you have to go before you believe that you'll be in prime, or do you think you're in prime now?
Oh, well, no, I do not think I'm in prime now. Yeah. I think, if I had to judge it, I'm very harsh on myself. So there's nothing anyone could say that would hurt my feelings because it's not as bad as how I judge myself, right? And especially at 35, looking at social media, there's always that comparison aspect. And comparison is the thief of joy in that sense. So I try to focus on that too, of being grateful, right? But I think right now with digital space marketing, I'm really focused on the systems and processes to be able to scale. And so the hardest part, and maybe not, you tell me your opinion on this, the hardest part is getting from a single attorney in a law firm to two, or from one employee to a second. But once the systems are in place for each particular job, and you've outlined that, and we're both familiar with traction, getting the process down to create traction, it's much easier to go from 2 to 4 to 4 to 8. And I've heard that from a lot of different entrepreneurs.
I don't care what the business is. Once you design the system and you design the model and you test the model out, after that it's plug and play. And it's just a matter of getting enough clients and getting enough work and balancing the work and the clients. There's nothing worse than getting a lot of clients and not being able to do the work. But there's also nothing worse than having all this work to do, or not have the proper the talent and have all the talent, but they have nothing to do.
Yeah, and I think on that, the way you describe the life cycle of a person or the life cycle of a business, I'd have to say I'm probably I feel like I'm still in the teenager phase. There's still a lot going on. Cash flow still is always a balance. And then to move forward to anyone out there listening of when do I hire that first employee or something like that? For me, it was I got one monthly client, and then I got a second. And right when let's say 3,000 and 3,000 for digital space marketing. So I had $6,000 coming in and I hired a second person. So I hired them really early because the only way to grow and scale any business is to multiply time.
And that's interesting because all of a sudden your $6,000 is going towards the business and it's not going towards you, but you're not looking at today.
Yeah.
You're looking at tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think you have to do that constantly. You always want to take a few chips off the table, right? But also in the entrepreneur space, it's a risky game.
It is a risky game. It's
the game we gamble.
Entrepreneurship is not for sissies, that's for sure.
Yeah.
In every single business that I work with, I see that struggle. I see the struggle. I see the impact not only on them, I see it on their families. I see it on their circle of influence, whether it's internally in the business or people who depend on their business externally. It is a tremendous, tremendous responsibility. Yeah. And it can be a tremendous opportunity and really beautiful. But, oh my God, it can be devastating too.
The quote of, I work 60 hours so I don't have to work 40.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's like, if you're lucky, you're working 60 hours. Yeah, because it's much more than that. Yeah. But yeah, so, you're getting married. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm working on this new framework, and I call it emotional leadership.
Okay.
And this is where you take your blueprint, and then you take someone else's blueprint, and then you have an interaction, and that interaction creates an emotional experience.
For positive or negative.
For positive or negative. And so when I look at the blueprint, I look at your blueprint, I'm thinking, let me learn as much as possible about Clay from birth to now. Let me see if I can understand his experiences, the environments he was in, his education, his indoctrination, his relationships with people, with things, with animals, with ideas, with concepts. If I can understand that, and let me see if I can understand the tribes that he's been a member of. If I can understand those things, the tribes you're a member of, I have an idea of your culture. And if I have an idea of your culture, I have an idea of your belief system. If I have an idea of your belief system, I have an idea of your values, the things that you think are important. If I have an idea of that, I've got a good idea about your identity.
Yeah.
And if I have a good idea about your identity, I have a good idea about what you want, what you need, and what you desire. And if I get that right, then I know what you expect.
Yeah.
And I know what your rules are. And I put that all together, and that's Clay's blueprint. Now, you met this wonderful woman, and she has a different blueprint altogether.
A whole different blueprint.
A whole different blueprint. Yeah. And now you're putting it all together.
Yeah.
And now you're trying to create a new family blueprint. What is that journey like?
I think it's tough out there. I think, our personal relationships are, they get the best of us, they get the worst of us. But it's finding someone that you can be with who has that hunger and desire. I'm a pretty intense person. Yeah. She probably wishes that I'm not pushing her to get out of a helicopter and for our next snowboard
You actually
trip.
take her?
I'm going to take her after the wedding. Yeah. I'm trying to get her to go.
After the wedding?
Yeah. Sign up.
So she doesn't have a choice now. You're in.
So she doesn't know that yet. Hopefully she's not listening. No, but so I think it's trying to find someone, for me who's open-minded and who, has that humility of like, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I'm a human and I am not a perfect human, and I'm going to try my best, and I'm going to give myself the grace and you the grace, but trying to find someone who will be hungry and who doesn't know it all, or who doesn't have the ego in the way.
You're looking for someone whose blueprint is similar to yours.
Correct. At least that recognizes a blueprint or has a similar blueprint, but also has that, there's the fixed versus what mindset?
You're fluid.
Yeah. Fixed versus fluid mindset. So trying to find someone whose belief systems isn't so grounded, even though
rigid.
They all are.
Yeah.
But who's willing to look into that part of themselves and upgrade.
That's so interesting that you say that, because if she doesn't tell you her rules and her expectations, and you do something that violates those rules or doesn't meet those expectations, which you will, I guarantee it. I've been married now for almost 37 years. You got to count all the wives, though. When you look at that scenario, you will find instances where she had a rule. She probably didn't even know she had the rule. And you violated the rule, and she's upset. You don't know why she's upset. Maybe sometimes she doesn't know why she's upset. And then you've got to deal with that. But you know what they say, happiness lies right above expectations. And so if you anticipate her rules and you follow her rules and you anticipate her expectations and you meet and exceed her expectations, she's going to be happy.
Yeah.
And you're going to be happy.
Yeah.
But if you violate any of those rules or don't meet those expectations, she's not going to be happy. And if you do it intentionally, God help you.
Yeah, and it could be my naiveness right now, right? My belief systems around this, I hope change. They will change. Yes. They've changed over the years. But we always encourage each other, I'm not here to make you happy. And I don't know if this is a healthy belief system or not, but I'm not. And so I encourage her to do things to make her happy.
Wait a minute, you're not here to make her happy?
It's not my job.
I'm going to have to interview you in 5 years, and I'll see how that works out for you. I got to tell you, I have a different philosophy.
Okay.
I heard someone say that anger is the punishment we give ourselves for someone else's behavior.
I like that. Yeah.
It's interesting. So when I look at relationships, whether it's an intimate relationship like a husband and wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, or it is a business relationship or just a casual relationship, I think it's important for us to raise not only our own self-awareness, but our social awareness, so that when we interact with that person, we're not forcing positive interactions. It's natural, but we're intentionally not triggering negative interactions. And so we can do that by understanding as much as we can about them, so we can understand what their rules and their expectations are. And we can do our best to at least meet or exceed those expectations. And so when it comes to personal and intimate relationships, I think it's a good idea to follow those rules and meet those expectations and create memorable moments, so that there's that type of positivity in the relationship. If you can do it intentionally. Of course, if you do it unintentionally and you don't meet the mark, then that's okay too. But you got to figure out how to deal with that. How do you deal with that when she's upset and you realize, holy cow, I did not know this, but now I know. How do you deal with that?
Gosh, well, for us, I think it's an encouragement of being open to that. And I wear my emotions on my sleeves and generally say too much. And so for her, when she does express, how she feels or pushes that out there, I really encourage her. She's like the sweetest, most perfect person. And so she's called me an asshole one time before.
Once?
Just once.
You're doing okay.
Basically. And I was like, awesome. Good job. Like, that's good. So I think there's a lot of, especially for men, expressing emotions and stuff like that. It always has to be these manly emotions in a sense. Society pushes that on. But for her and I, expressing emotions and working through these things is something we're working on. Working on ourselves is what we do. I can only control myself, and I work on myself constantly, and same for her. And so then we bring our best selves to the relationship. And so that's my philosophy right now. It'll of course change as children come and all of that stuff. It's going to change. And I seek coaches like you to update those belief systems, or to check them, or to, absorb yours, and to try to figure this out, because we're all on this crazy rock going around.
As lawyers, we deal with conflict all the time. A lot of conflict.
And you're good with it as a mediator, too.
Consistently, right? We're dealing with it as lawyers, as a mediator, and in my work with businesses, I deal with conflict all the time. And so I've actually come up with a paradigm, and, I said, look, if it's me, and I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated, what can I do about it? Well, I can disconnect. And I can disconnect from the person, from the environment, from the tribe, from the circumstances, and I can disconnect permanently or temporarily. And put
one better than the other.
Yeah, exactly. Put some distance between the stimulus and my response. I could just blow up.
Done that.
And certainly done that. I can, I can, there are a lot of options that I can take that are not very constructive. But what if I said to myself, this belief system that you have, and these values that you have, and these resulting identity that you created for yourself, and these rules and these expectations that you have, are they serving you? Is this belief system that you have this degree of certainty about, is it actually true?
But even understanding the belief system is a skill in and of itself.
It is a skill.
Because I would argue a lot of people, including myself, of course, don't even recognize certain belief systems that we have. So,
I went through an exercise with I have a lovely woman that hired me to coach her kids, and her kids are between the ages of 16 and 27. This lady lives and works in Japan. She has a multinational company that she runs, and she woke up one day and she said, "I don't think my kids are ready for this. If something happens to them." And so she hired me to coach her kids. And I went through this exercise with the kids just this week, actually. And one of them is in Japan, one's in Brazil, and two are in New York City. And they all get together for this Zoom session with me. Really interesting. And I went around them and I said, how many of your beliefs do you think are yours versus others imprinted on you? And they all said that their own belief systems that they came up with and they validated and they adopted it consciously and intentionally, maybe about 15 to 20%.
That's pretty good.
And the rest of them completely imprinted upon them.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're on autopilot. But that's society in general.
And I was talking to a friend the other day about this concept, and it's like the 6-year-old girl whose mom is crying in the house, right? The 6-year-old girl grabs a little tissue or grabs a towel and brings it over to her mom, and her mom stops crying. Yeah, this 6-year-old girl. And all of a sudden, between the ears and the brain, this little girl can fix people's problems at 6 years old.
That's right.
And so she adopts this belief system that she has the ability herself to fix people and to fix people's problems. And it becomes, there's a lot of different gurus out there with different personality traits, but the one I would label maybe is a people pleaser and starts becoming this person who puts themselves before others, or puts others before themselves. Yeah. And so just from this teeny incident under 6 years old, 7 years old, that happened. And so I think as I reflect on my own self, I think part of life is recognizing these and then just trying to strip them away, right? Yeah. It's like,
well, you try to recognize them, try to recognize the ones that serve you and keep those, and the ones that don't serve you, you get rid of those.
Yeah.
And that's one of the toughest things. So when I'm in that spot, I usually start saying, what are these belief systems? What are these values? What are these rules and expectations that I have? Because I have the power to change those. And if I can change those, then it doesn't matter what anyone else does.
Yeah.
All that matters is how I interpret it. And I can choose to interpret it any way I want. But when it comes to other people, it's a little bit more complicated. And so with other people, you almost have to de-escalate them from a 10 all the way down to a 0.
Yeah.
And then walk them through that process. And that's not easy. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a leader in a business, you often are faced with situations where people are escalated in a negative way, whether it's an employee, a customer, a partner, a strategic relationship in one form or the other. And you've got to sit back and think, how did this person get there?
Yeah.
And how can I get them from there back to a place that's constructive? How do you do that?
Empathy and grace, right?
Empathy and grace.
Probably other words that could pop out, but it's, being empathetic. I'm a human too, and I get it. And then it's okay, and I think in relationships too, it's, if Louisa, for instance, that's my fiance, like something happens in that sense, it's like, who am I to judge? Like, I'm here to help. Yeah. I'm here to listen. I'm here. What do you need? Do you need me to listen, or do you need me to solve your problem? Yeah. And so I think recognizing that too when employees blowing up or something like that is key too. Sometimes they just want to be listened to. Yeah. And sometimes they want us to solve their problems, and sometimes it's not the time. And that temporary space that you talked about earlier is super important. And I think depending on the issue, especially for entrepreneurs, executives, etc., you can't let that space get too big or too small, right? And so then I'm still navigating through this, which is why I'm not in Prime as a human, let alone for the business, but trying to figure out what that is. And it's obviously situational as well. If someone's employee's parent passes away or a loved one passes away and they come in and you're like, hey, I don't think we should talk about this right now. We need some space. Probably not the best time to put space in and hey, let's talk in a week. Yeah. It's like, no. So I think it's situational as well of trying to figure that out. How do you approach that? You've got to
raise your own awareness and the social awareness to be able to do that. Your emotional intelligence has to be at a place where you have at least the base skills to recognize those situations and act accordingly. Clay, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
And that's one of the things I love talking about. One of the reasons I love talking to you is because the diversity of thought is there. And all of these thoughts and all these ideas and all these concepts that we discussed, they're not unique to you or me. Every single entrepreneur, they're thinking about these things.
It's a lot of different realities, too.
It is a lot of different realities. Well, I want to loop back over to what you do. And so tell people how they can get in contact with you at Digital Space Marketing.
So the best place for me personally is ClaytonPatterson.com. That you'll find books, all sorts of stuff that I'm putting out there, resources. And then digitalspacemarketing.com is the marketing company's main domain, where you can get in touch with us. For a great first step is a website audit. If there is business owners out there to first get that audit. Yeah. Let's just bring a team in to, let's see how you're doing in the race. Let's see the vehicle. Let's see what we're working with before we do anything, right? Let's figure out the belief systems before we change them, right? Yeah. In that sense. And so, ClaytonPatterson.com, digitalspacemarketing.com. Those are the best places.
And so how can entrepreneurs get your book Blast Off?
Amazon. I have it in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle. Yeah. I'm working on the voice, waiting for Morgan Freeman to call me back. Hasn't called me back yet, but working on the Audible as well.
So, if people go on your website for Digital Space Marketing, you get the pop-up of the book as well. So they can go on the website, they can look at it, the book will pop up. And if they want to buy the book, they can actually click that link straight to Amazon and buy the book as well.
Absolutely. You did your homework. I forgot about the pop-up. Good job.
Well, Clay, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. Thank you for.
I always appreciate our conversations.
Same here. Absolutely same here. Thank you all for joining us in Private Corporate Counsel and the Private Corporate Counsel Podcast. If you want to learn more about our firm, you can reach us at 407-647-7887 or visit us on the web at www.pcc.law. Thank you and have a great day.
Please continue to listen to our podcast to learn more. Contact us at 877-647-7887 or email us at info@pcc.law to learn more about the Private Corporate Counsel program and how we can help you and your business on your journey to success.